Dave and Steve. I'm Dave.
And I'm Steve.
And today we are going to talk about one of my favorite bands and their debut album. Steve, what do you know about The Clash?
The Clash, I know it's a punk band from across the way. Big fan of their song Career Opportunities. I'm actually thinking about covering it as a B-side for my my solo project. I'm going to release a series of singles, and then I'm going to have like a work-related cover paired with the single, so I can trick people into listening to my song, hopefully. And I was thinking about doing like a thrashy version of that, or a doomy version of that. So,
well, good news that I chose this album because
I know I'm stoked.
Yeah, this is the one that it's on. This is The Clash's debut album, The Clash, that came out in 1977. It is the UK version specifically, so we'll talk about the difference between the US and the UK edition later in the podcast. But yeah, this is their debut album that came out in 1977 alongside, like a bunch of punk albums, like in a bunch of first punk albums. This was a really big statement in like their whole career. This is their rawest, most punky album, and it's their only album with their original drummer, TERRY CHIMES. But yeah, The Clash were, you probably know all this, but they were Joe Strummer, Mick Jones, Paul Simonon, and at this point, TERRY CHIMES, but later on...
TORY CRIMES.
Yeah, they got his name wrong on the on the sleeve.
Honestly, like, if they're gonna get somebody's name wrong, like TORY CRIMES is kind of a badass stage name.
Yeah, and this is the only the studio album that he's in. But there is a point later when they'd fired Topper for being on too much heroin to tour, where they brought Terry back. So there's like no bad blood. I just don't think Terry wanted to be a drummer in a band because he stopped doing music after the early 80s, like entirely. I think he's like a lawyer now or something.
To link this up with Black Sabbath, TERRY CHIMES actually did a couple of makeup shows with Black Sabbath at one point. While we're listening, I'm going to look up the details on that because I don't remember enough to talk about it right now. Is there anything else that we should talk about before we move on?
This is the most typically punk album of The Clash. I think I said that a little earlier. But like as they kind of kept going, they let their other influences creep in. And they do kind of let them creep in a little bit on here. As their career kept going, they started incorporating more like rockabilly and reggae, even gospel in one song. But this is just them at their most unfiltered, most furious. This was them when they were playing alongside the Sex Pistols because they hadn't stopped getting along with Johnny Rotten yet.
That reminds me, I was looking at some articles and saw that Lemmy, for some reason, doesn't like The Clash. It was like a grunge, like, clickbait video, and they were talking about it, and he's like, oh, yeah, I thought he said, like, The Clash were manufactured or something along those lines.
A lot of people... That was kind of a common criticism of them. Like a lot of people, like their manager, Bernie Rhodes, was trying to do the same thing that Malcolm McLaren was trying to do with the Sex Pistols. And
so basically the same criticism.
Yeah, it's basically the same criticism that's leveled at the Sex Pistols. The Clash managed to fire Bernie at one point. So I think it's a little less founded for them. Although they brought him back. We're going to do Combat Rock at some point, and we'll talk about the whole fraught relationship with Bernie Rhodes at that point. But yeah, he's on board at this point. Bernie was gone by the time they did their best-known album, London Calling. And then too many world tours, they had to get a manager again and chose the worst person they could have by bringing back their old one. But that is a long story. It's very well documented.
Yeah, the same thing happened to Sabbath. The guy that ripped him off, he just ended up going back to him because I don't know, because he didn't. I don't understand why you'd do that after somebody ripped you off so bad. But
and then I think Lemmy was cool with a lot of like the smaller punk bands. Like he hung out with them a lot, and a lot of when the Clash was huge, kind of resented them for being so successful, which I don't blame them necessarily. And so, like, there were accusations of selling out. It's punk scenes never change. Like, successful bands get hated, and other bands get mad about it. And there's rivalries, and different people feel they have to take sides. I can see Lemmy taking like the Damned or the Buzzcocks side, and any kind of like rivalry that any of these bands might have had at one point. So,
yeah, well. That doesn't take away any of Lemmy's coolness, in my opinion. He's kind of an old grouch, but he's our old grouch.
Yeah, and I don't need every band that I like to have their members like each other, so... Or even like themselves, like the other members of their bands.
Yeah, their beefs aren't our beefs. I see people do that all the time, like the Metallica versus Megadeth thing. I'm like, it's been like 50 years. I think they're over it.
Yeah. I think they brought in Mustaine to kind of reason with them during, what was that documentary? Some Kind of Monster?
Yeah, there was a scene where they did a therapy session with, it was just Lars and Dave, and Dave, like, basically opened up about, like, how hurtful it was to be kicked out the way he was, and then he got mad at him because he didn't want him to put it in the documentary, but they ended up putting it in there. Although, I'm kind of like, Dave, that's the most human I have ever seen you.
Yeah.
So the rivalries between bands, sometimes the fans just take it to such an extreme that I don't understand sometimes.
Yeah.
But.
It's a parasocial relationship type thing.
True.
Anyway, yeah, this is The Clash's debut album. Some people will say this is their best album. I don't think I agree with that, but it is a great album. It is the second best album of theirs.
Well, all right. Well, I'm looking forward to this, so we'll be back after we listen to side one.
All right, that was 8 songs. Last couple ones that we've done, each side is like 4 songs, so that was double the amount of songs for a side. Steve, what did you think?
Well, that's kind of the nice thing about punk is you get twice the songs for the same amount as you get on like a metal record.
Exactly, it's a bargain unless you're like in a jukebox or on iTunes paying by the song. But yeah,
if you're a Doom fan like me, it's like you probably get like 2 or 3 songs per side.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I thought it was fantastic. This is absolutely the kind of punk that I'm into. Is this I guess the more street punk? Is that a good way to put it?
At this point, yeah, they definitely weren't street as they went forward and got access to better studios. But yeah, this one is like lower fidelity than their later stuff, and then a lot of their contemporaries just kind of rough, scrappy. You can't really hear a lot in the overdubs. You hear them playing, and you just
Yeah, my biggest criticism usually of punk is a lot of it is poorly produced, and this was very well produced. I feel like I can see this is a remastered version, so I don't know how like an original pressing would stack up, but this one sounds great.
Yeah, it's probably similar. So the funny thing about how this is a repressing is I said that it was the UK version, and it's not an import.
Mm-hmm.
That was actually pressed here in Omaha.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there weren't any American pressings of the UK version until like the 2000s at some point when Drastic Plastic Records got the rights to do the UK pressing of The Clash's debut. So that is from Drastic Plastic, rest in peace.
Oh, wow, that's really cool.
Track opener, Janie Jones, one of their best songs that they ever did. Just a fantastic, energetic opener. Just, yeah, an amazing song. Second track, Remote Control, was a song they don't like anymore they didn't like even shortly after this album because the label released it as a single and they didn't want it as a single. And so they kind of decided they hated the song in retrospect. It's funny. We'll get into that later when we get into the US version. But yeah, that's that one. And then
I'm so bored with the USA.
Yeah, that was a breakup song that Mick Jones had written on his own before he and Joe Strummer got together. And then when he was playing it for Joe, Mick was, singing the chorus with "I'm so bored with you," and then Strummer was S.A. You can really hear the difference between their vocal styles on that one too. Jones was the better singer, but Joe Strummer was the one who sang lead on most songs. And Joe Strummer was the veteran musician. He had been in a band that had played in front of people before at this point and had busked on the street a lot otherwise too. He was slightly older and embarrassed by it and tried to hide it from the band, but we are both a lot older than he was at that time. Yeah. The UK punk scene at the time was obsessed with being young, and it was kind of weird in retrospect. But hey, it created a lot of vital music, and a lot of people just well, we got to do this now rather than learn more chords. We just play the way we can because we're going to be old soon and won't matter anymore.
I remember when I was like 18, I would get anxious about getting older because I feel like getting older means that's less time for me to release like music. And I realized, wait, I'm getting older and writing better music because I have years of experience. So
yeah, it really explains like the apocalyptic nature of like a lot of like early UK punk. It's just like they felt the world was ending and had to get their stuff out right away. And an obsession with, like being young was a big part of that. White Riot, the next track, that was their first single. Interesting version of that song is still on the US version, but the version they have on the US version is the single version, which is almost exactly the same, except they replaced the count in with police sirens. So I like this version better. Like they cleaned up the production a little bit on the US version too, and it's like this is, this one's rawer, more interesting.
When I was reading about the US version on Wikipedia, I was like, oh man, they absolutely butchered the album.
They did. It's a good album, but it's a different album still. It's like my all-time favorite Clash song is one that, was a non-album single that they ended up putting on the US album, but it's like this. There's an immediacy to this one that really gets kind of ruined with the US version. The US version is the version I have on CD, so the one that I listened to in my car a whole lot before I even got this version. So it's like I'm very familiar with it and I still love it, but this is the better way to present these songs in my opinion. Hate and War, it's a good song. I like the interplay between Jones and Strummer's singing style. You can hear Jones be the good singer, and Joe Strummer just the righteous fury that he was going with that one.
That one's a great one.
What's My Name? Most notable thing about that one is there's another songwriter on it, which is Keith Levine. Keith Levine was an early member of the band when they started off as a 3-guitar band, which I don't think would have worked, but Keith Levine was an amazing guitarist. He would go on to be a founding member of Public Image Limited, which was John Lydon's band when he stopped being Johnny Rotten in the Sex Pistols. Well, he left before they broke up, but when he was doing like his weird experimental post-punk stuff, Keith Levine was his guitarist, and maybe that's why there was a rivalry eventually between Lydon and The Clash, because Keith Levine didn't exactly leave on good terms.
Yeah, that could definitely be part of it.
Yeah. Deny is just a cool song. I don't think there's a lot notable about it. It's one of the songs that gets omitted from the US version, which is sad. I like the harmonies. London's Burning, good stomper, all-time classic.
Definitely a good one to end the side on.
Yeah. We didn't talk about this before like we usually have been, but what do you think of the album art?
Perfect. Definitely embodies what you get with the package, I feel like.
Yeah.
You got a picture of the band up front here, looking all intimidating. And then you turn it around, and it's Cops.
Yep. Yeah, it's a 3-piece on the cover because by the time the album was released, TERRY CHIMES had quit the band. So
don't you mean TORY CRIMES?
TORY CRIMES had quit the band, so it was just the 3 of them by that point, and then they replaced him pretty quickly, but they didn't have the new drummer quite ready yet at that point, so it's just like, okay, the 3 of us that are on this record, get it done, standing in an alley. White Riot is an interesting song, to circle back to it, in that they saw a protest in London by a bunch of black citizens, and they were like, this is good. People are standing up for their rights and demanding them. Why don't white people ever do this?
Yeah. I think that's a question we should all be asking right now.
Yeah, and it talks about a lot of the it wasn't just the black citizens, but like a lot of the Central Asian, like a lot of the ethnic minorities who had moved to London at that point were more willing to stand up and fight for their rights, while white people were afraid to go to jail. That's even dressed directly in the song. Nobody wants to go to jail.
Yeah.
And so it's about just like the kind of the cowardice that you develop when you have more to lose,
right? Yeah.
By having a slightly more privileged position than the people who are absolutely eating shit in society.
Yeah, they want to keep a lower class to keep the middle class in line.
Yeah, that's how slavery developed in the first place. Create an underclass so that the people who weren't mistreated quite as much would have other people to hate rather than the people who were oppressing them.
I mean, we're not really that different from serfs if you think about it.
No. Yeah, that was the first side of the album. A lot of songs, a lot of short songs. Like I think the longest one is like 3 minutes. Most of them are like a minute and a half.
Before we move on to the next side, I got a Tory crime story here. So there was a connection with Black Sabbath that we talked about earlier. So I looked it up, and he joined the band for the Eternal Idol tour, and that was the album before the one that we listened to a few weeks ago. The reason he joined the band is because the drummer they had at the time had political objections over them playing in Sun City in apartheid South Africa. So Tony, probably coked up out of his mind, was like, was told by his manager, it's like, yeah, it's in South Africa, but it's not like in South Africa, you know. So Tony's like, whoa, okay, all right. And then, or, that's what I imagine. He might just be covering his ass with that story, because it's like, well, if your drummer quit over political reasons, like, didn't you look into that?
It's so funny that they got the original drummer from the most left-wing political punk band. Well, not the most by that point, but of the early ones, Joe Strummer absolutely probably been mad when he learned that that Terry went and played in apartheid South Africa.
Yeah.
The guy whose band would go on to make an album called Sandinista that has a song about CIA assassinations, and yeah.
I wonder if Terry's ever talked about that. I'm gonna look it up when we're listening to side B.
Yeah, that's gonna be so great.
But yeah, so we got a connection to my favorite band there, and then it was because they were doing something kind of unethical. So
it's just so funny they got someone from the Clash to do it. Oh, and I was wrong. Terry didn't become a lawyer. I looked it up. He became a chiropractor.
Ah, okay.
Which is funnier.
Chiropractor, hard word to spell.
Yes.
All right. Were you ready to move on to side B?
Yes.
All right. We'll be back. And we're back.
Okay, yeah. That was side 2. I think my 2 favorite songs on the album are on side 2. Maybe my 3 favorite.
I gotta say, this album I think is all bangers. I don't think there was a single song on here I didn't like.
Yeah, they're all great. I think my favorite song was the album closer, Garageland. I don't think that there's any... Our Garage, for our friends across the pond. I don't think there is any song that better encapsulates that whole here's a chord, here's another chord, here's another chord, now go start a band idea better than that one. Just that verse that's the truth is only known by gutter snipes, that has that line, and then the outro where Joe just starts kind of going on a tangent, 22 singers, 1 microphone, just that's the scrappy go do this yourself, go make this spirit that's really perfect. Yeah, my other 2 favorites off of this side are Career Opportunities, obviously, all-time classic, great anti-work song.
And that's my favorite one on this album, because it's one of those songs that just perfectly explains how I've felt and sometimes still feel in the workforce, because it's basically you have opportunities to get to so-called good jobs, but it's still it's serving tea to the so-called important people, and if you don't like that, well, you go down the loading dock and work with the workers,
Yeah. And then my other one, I liked the 6-minute long reggae cover. I think that was a really cool change of pace, and putting it so near the end of the whole thing was just kind of a way to kind of calm down and mellow out between all the fast and furious 2-minute songs. It was just a nice relaxing song about how the police and the criminals are equally dangerous to us normal people.
Well, in a lot of ways, the police are just another gang in this world, and they're just sanctioned by the state.
Yeah, state-run gangs. And then the other 3 songs are all good. Here, I liked how much they changed. Protex Blue, that one's great. That one's about condoms. And Mick yelling Johnny Johnny at the end was really funny. Yeah. And then 48 Hours. Yeah, just a fun, quick, stompy song. And then Cheat changed a lot for a 2-minute song. There was okay, yeah, I'm really liking this. Oh, this other thing that's coming in here, that's really interesting. This is great. Okay, here's the solo. Oh, and then here's this. Yeah, it was just so many ideas crammed into a 2-minute song that it didn't feel underdeveloped in any way. It was just we're just going to play this really fast and dump all these good ideas in one song, which how strong, Cheat, Protex Blue, and 48 Hours are, really makes me sad that those are 3 of the songs that get cut for the U.S. version. So I did not hear them until I got a very comprehensive compilation that had a bunch of like deleted tracks and stuff on it. So like that was the version of this album that I knew the longest did not have those or Back from the First Side, Deny, which I think it's a missed opportunity, you know? Like I love all the songs on the US version, but I wish that when they had changed the release for like when they put the CD release out, whenever that would have been, that they would have just done like the original UK order and then just had the US tracks as bonus tracks after Garage Land.
I'm surprised that they didn't do that. You think it would be a no-brainer?
Yeah, that's exactly how I would have done it. It would have been fine. It would have been great.
But they ruined it.
They ruined it.
Well. Yeah, I got to say, one thing I do like about the songs on this album is they are on the shorter side, but they do a very good job of arranging them so they're short, but you know they don't feel short.
No, then yeah, like none of them feel like too long or too short. They just feel like we have expressed this idea. Time to move on.
Yeah. So yeah, you know, I think I've listened to this album before, but maybe I listened to the U.S. version because I don't remember some of these songs. But I gotta say, this is a great one. Probably gonna enter my listening rotation, and I definitely recommend it. I can hear how these songs probably influenced a lot of thrash metal bands. I hear kind of that genesis in there. I didn't look up like any thrash bands like talking about them being an influence, but you know, I can hear it.
Yeah, they definitely did. One thing that I like about that, like you said earlier while we were listening to it, that Chuck D of Public Enemy is a big fan of The Clash, and it's like you can really hear that they have similar politics. For one, like just like the differences in their politics are the differences between being in the UK versus the US. And,
yeah, I think that's really cool, and Chuck D is such a cool guy. So
yeah, and then like The Clash, they really embraced like a lot of different styles of music, including a lot of black music. Like you have the reggae song on there. They were the first punk band to cover a reggae song. A lot of other bands did after them, and that's really cool. And then this is going to be a lot later in their career, but like for their fourth album, Sandinista, they opened it by being the first rock band to do a rap song like that. They wrote it. It was like a song they wrote. They got like some beat people from New York City to come up with the bass and drums for them for that one. But that was they did a rap song before Blondie did Rapture, which I think is pretty cool.
I was watching a YouTube documentary on the origins of nu metal, and they actually talked about that album on there. And they went through like a big comprehensive history. Like they started with, I want to say, oh god, I don't remember like the earliest stuff, but there was a lot of, in the punk scene especially, there was a lot of experimenting with rap, which, you know, I think became a big thing in hardcore. So I think rappers and punk rockers probably have a lot of similar experiences. I hear Henry Rollins talk about dealing with the LA police, and it's like, oh, he probably has a lot in common with like, I don't know, Dr. Dre or something, you know.
And they all, you know, like come from, well, not all of them, but like for the large part, they came like from poorer backgrounds. And it was like, we will play the music that we can play with the equipment we can get. So like in the UK, yeah, they could get like cheap guitars and do that. While in the US, it's like, well, our parents can't afford instruments or lessons, so let's just see how we can loop dance breaks and records and have someone do poetry over it.
Yeah, and it's really cool when you put it like that, because I used to have an anti-rap bias, probably because, you know, I grew up in small town Nebraska, but I've been listening to more lately just because I want to expand my musical palette, and it's cool how, I mean, I hate that they were in the situation they had to do that, but I do like the story of people taking what they had and making their own music with it and making some cool things. Because that documentary I was watching like was showing a lot of the early stuff and how they take like a rock song and slow it down. And it'd be a riff that I'd recognize normally, but like in that song, it sounds almost more like its own thing.
Yeah, and then they would get a hold of like the Roland 808 drum machine, which was a failed model at that point. It was discontinued, and you can get them for dirt cheap as opposed to now, and would like do like a beat underneath all of their samples so that they could kind of structure it all together. It was really cool. It really pioneered the way electronic music and sampling could work.
Yeah. Hey, you know, I actually ordered a soundtrack that will be coming in the mail. So a future episode will be on the Judgment Night soundtrack, which is a bunch of alternative rock and metal bands mixed with a bunch of rap artists from the time. And I think you're going to really like that one. So
yeah, looking forward to it.
So yeah. The Clash's first album, go listen to it. I like it a lot. So, oh wait,
Yeah.
I got one more thing. We were gonna check back in about Terry Chimes if he talked about the South Africa thing. So, I found a copy of his autobiography online, and I found the chapter where he talks about joining Black Sabbath. And it was kind of a thing where his manager heard about it, and he's like, "Oh God, would it be awesome to be Black Sabbath's drummer?" So he got his manager to get him an audition, and he learned all the songs off. He says the live album, so I'm assuming he's talking about Live Evil, which is the one that Dio sang on. And he just he learned all the songs on that, and then he learned like the studio versions, because it's like, well, what if they ask me to play the studio versions? I'm like, oh, that's commitment. Yeah. So he goes and auditions with the band, and I think this is between him recording with Billy Idol, and the auditions obviously go well because he does his homework. And so what he said about South Africa is, I don't know if he regrets it. He basically said, we went to South Africa, and it was controversial, and it really opened my eyes. And I don't know if he meant like it really opened my eyes about the apartheid part, or if or if he was talking about like the press attacking him.
Yeah, that's weird.
But I guess his kind of take on it was, according to him, they played a club, and it was a mixed race club, so everybody was allowed in there, and I guess the owner was black, so I don't know if that helps.
Yeah.
But I think his take is kind of along the lines of, well, if we don't go there and play for people and expose them to other cultures, you know, we're just punishing the citizens. So I guess by them playing an all race club maybe makes that not so bad. I don't know.
Yeah, playing an all race club makes it better. But yeah, I don't know. I'd have to think about what I thought about that kind of thing, like what you do.
And then close that grim story out with kind of a funny one. Apparently, the first show that TORY CRIMES did with Black Sabbath, he said he played the first song. He's like, oh, everything's going well, I'm feeling good. And then suddenly he looks up at Tony, and he says he's making the stupidest face and balancing his pink guitar pick on his nose. So yeah. You can get coke in South Africa, it sounds like.
Yeah. I was originally going to say, oh, let's listen to the U.S. tracks as a bonus and do kind of a side 3, but now I'm kind of thinking, what if we just, a later episode, we do the U.S. version so that we can hear how it sounds in context and, see what works about deleting 4 awesome songs to put on 4 other awesome songs that don't match the same vibe, just to see how it works.
I even saw on the Wikipedia page it basically called it a glorified compilation at that point.
Yeah, at that point it's some highlights from the first album and a bunch of non-album singles. It's not the same thing.
Executives don't make any sense sometimes.
But yeah, we'll just do that as a different episode later down the line, because
that'll be fun.
The whole other album is worth its own conversation because of just how different it is.
Yeah.
And the fact that it came out after they'd done their second album, and so it was kind of a different band at that point too.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's annoying, but it's interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been Side 1, Side B with Dave and Steve. I'm Steve.
I'm Dave.
And if you want to check out our music, you can go to my website, killrockmusic.com. That's KILRAVOC. Next time, I haven't decided which one we're going to do. We're either going to do a Southern rock album, or we're going to do a new wave of British heavy metal album. So
either of those will be good. My next one, we are going to do an early industrial band doing a foray into kind of synth pop, but in a really dark and menacing way.
Ooh, that sounds fun.
Yeah, we're going to keep hitting you with interesting classics.
All right. Well, I know everybody wants to go listen to the Diano album, because everybody we've played that song for just loves it.
We did the Diano one. We had to do something that didn't work at some point, as I said on that episode. It's fun. I'm enjoying this project.
I like how Sean was just kind of like, all right, enough of that now, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
And then Adam got to the vocals, he's like, yeah, I'm leaving too. All right. Peace. Side 1, Side B with Dave and Steve is a Floof Goof Studios production. Check out Steve's website, killrockmusic.com. That's KILRAVOCK music.com for links to our current projects, The Illiterates and Lucid Fugue, along with Steve's past and current projects, along with links to other episodes of Side 1, Side B. Catch us on YouTube at Side 1, Side B. Catch Dave on Instagram at Dave_Diction. Catch Steve on Instagram and TikTok at KillrockMusicSWS, along with his YouTube channel where he improvises guitar videos. Me.